proud members of the Fan First Sports Network.
He's gonna go! It's time, people, feel it!
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day! He gets better and better! Team is MVP! If we die, we die!
Man, put a child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Since you already fucked it up. Welcome into the Big Red Junkies. For those of you that are new here, I am BJ. This is Jed. This is Matt. Please like, subscribe, share, follow. We love doing this for you guys. We're talking updates. It's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks-ish since we recorded a show. Some things have happened. We have a special teams coordinator now.
Mm-hmm.
We've retained, we kept Penn State and Texas from being able to steal our running backs coach.
Well, yeah, and as far as like Mike Eckler, we did a show where we found out that he was going to be this, but now it's become official. Like it was officially announced and stuff like that. Yeah,
officially announced, and we will have a show coming out either this weekend or next week, where we are breaking down the entirety of Mike Eckler's 4 years at Tennessee compared to Nebraska. I've seen the charts. It's fucking sad.
And make sure you have tissues to wipe the tears away.
Yeah.
Or tissues to be excited about him coming to Nebraska.
That too.
They could be sad tissues or happy tissues.
So it's all about how you look at
Just
life.
don't use them for the same thing.
No.
Don't use them for both.
You have a separate box for your tissues?
No, I'm just saying don't use the same tissue for both.
You got a happy box?
That could be messy. That could be messy.
Jesus Christ.
Goes off to a blazing start.
It's the off season of football. Nobody knows what to do right now.
I think the EJ Barthel news is probably some of the biggest news that we've gotten this week, other than a quick moment of silence, RIP, Greg Sharp.
Yes.
Big loss. Everybody kind of knew it was already coming. I think, we posted out on the Twitter that I think one of the coolest things that I've seen in a long time, not just in sports, just in life in general, is how he almost got to experience his eulogy, his memorialization while he was still alive. He got to see what a lot of people thought of him, how he touched people, and get to see something like the broadcast booth getting renamed after him. Things like that. Normally, those things happen, posthumously.
Yeah,
very, very cool that he was actually able to experience some of that stuff, and I mean, he got to go out pretty much being celebrated for a whole year.
Yep,
very cool. Much, much love and respect to him and the family. But, I mean, on to happier news. Like I said, EJ Barthel retained. I thought it was absolutely crazy when we heard Texas has listed him on the short list of candidates that they want to go after for their running back position that was open. And then you heard Penn State. And I'm like, how are we going to keep him from wanting to go to Penn State and coach the two best running backs or the best running back tandem in college football?
Especially the money that Penn State's throwing around right now for all of their assistants. Jesus.
Yeah, $7 billion for a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, and I think it also really signifies the stamp that Rule wanted to put on things heading into this offseason and this upcoming year. There is no more excuses whatsoever now. You have laid out everything when it comes to the staff. They're paid across the board like an NFL or like a big boy roster, an Ohio State style roster is. You saw Rule basically throw down the gauntlet, say, hey, I need to get with the times, adjust a little bit. I need to quit. This can be a developmental program from a standpoint of the players. It doesn't need to be for the coaches. And we need to move into the big boy side of things. I think that's huge.
So when you say there's no more excuses, what does that mean as far as like
championship, baby?
Okay.
For 2 decades plus, we've been able to say, oh, well, we don't have this, or we don't pay this position coach enough to have a high end position coach there, or we're not shelling out enough for our.
You're talking more off the field stuff.
I'm talking about everything that goes into making the play on the field elite.
Okay.
There's always been an excuse at some level or another. Yes, Nebraska's always had resources. Yes, Nebraska's always had great facilities. But for a long time, Nebraska didn't have top 50-ish facilities. Now we do. Now we have, so,
and like what you were talking about with the salary stuff, we've always been cheap for a very long time.
We've always been cheap. We've always underpaid, and it's under-delivered on the field, especially for the last 2 decades.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore. It's like the entire program, the entire state, all the NIL, everything, the university has pushed it, all the chips to the middle. We're all ready to go. Now it just has to translate to play on the field.
That's why I asked the question, because I was just thinking, like, if we go 7-5, 8-4, is that part of the no excuse? Like,
depends on how you do it.
I agree, but that's kind of why I asked the question. What exactly do you entail in the no excuses? But it sounds like it's more off the field stuff than anything else.
No, realistically, I mean, I kind of
like is there no excuse to go to not win 9 or 10 games next year? Is that what you're talking about? Or
this isn't. I didn't want to turn this into a preview show, but
no, that's not what I'm trying to do either.
Like,
I'm just
I am legitimately saying that those things aren't there anymore. There's no longer it's acceptable for us to have only won 8 games this next year because we don't have the talent, we don't have the resources, we don't have the coaches, we don't have the whatever. It's all there. We paid to bring in top tier talent. We brought in arguably 2 of the best, if not the 2 best, offensive linemen in the portal this year. You could argue that. Maybe not statistically when you line them up against somebody that's playing at New Mexico State or at Washington State.
Yeah.
But those players also didn't play in a fucking national championship game and play through the entirety of the playoffs or play in the SEC against those opponents down there.
I still think that the roster and the players are growing still, and that part of the program is still being built.
I agree, but I'm saying everything else.
But I would not say that if we don't win 9 there's no excuse not to win 9 or 10 games next year. I still think that we could have, like what Matt said, if we
it's a lot
8
more
wins or whatever.
It's a lot more about how you do it than it is about the numbers.
I agree.
At least I think that's where you're trying to get.
Yeah,
I'm not.
At least for me,
I'm not, because football is played to win games. It's not about how it looks.
Yeah, but there's a difference between, an amazing game between Ohio State and Penn State in the quarterfinal game or what we saw for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that Penn State has a lot more to hang their hat on than the Chiefs do this year, if you know what I mean. Like, that's what I'm talking about. You can win 8 or 9 games, not quite get as far as you think you could, and still have a good fucking season.
And we're not the only team that is putting forth the resources that we are. Everybody.
No,
a lot of other
agree
teams
with
are doing it too. So there's the part of the competition that sometimes you just lose games. I mean, sometimes that is just what it is. You just lost a handful of games that maybe you should have won, maybe you shouldn't have, but that's part of football as well. So
sure, but we're not playing enough of those games on this next schedule for that to make sense.
Yeah, we said that last year too.
Yeah, we didn't put this out there like we did last year. This turned into a weird debate where we were just trying to do updates.
Do we ever not debate shit on this show?
Be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what our stuff looks like when we get ready to do some of our preview shows.
Yes.
Because I really do have pretty strong feelings about what we should be able to expect this next season.
Yeah, I'm stunned by that.
Yeah.
And so is everybody else that's always listening to us.
I'm sure. So because I haven't been able to stay up on stuff as much with the new gig that I started, what else is there out there for us to kind of chat about right now?
Well, I mean, this could be a debate as well, but with EJ Barthel signing that contract and getting the 3-year extension for $450,000, there's been a lot of people that aren't big fans of EJ Barthel. What do you guys think as far as, is this a good thing that we kept him, or did you want him to go and promote somebody from within? The talk was Jamar Mosey going into the running back position as a full-time coach. But
I like keeping him, especially when you look at the coach or the other teams that were going after him. I think that he has something to prove this year.
Yes.
And I think that he's probably the best man for the job at this point in the year that we could have in that position. We're not going to go find somebody better than him at this point in the year.
Doubtful. But, at the same time, if we throw a bunch of money, anybody will come. So,
yeah.
I mean,
we also kind of thought the same thing last year when we lost Evan Cooper.
True.
In whatever, June or July, whatever that was.
Yeah.
There's a lot more time to have found somebody. I don't know about that side of things, but the way that I kind of look at it is this. He played or he was an assistant coach for a position that wasn't well respected and wasn't well utilized in an offense that had no identity and was really, really, really poorly called, while trying to coach up a room where the offensive coordinator didn't like the best player in the room. So I don't think he got a very fair shake as the actual assistant coach of the running backs prior to Dana Holgorsen getting here. And the way that Dana is going to utilize the running backs is actually going to allow his room to shine a little bit more, especially with the type of talent that he has in there. All that being said, I don't think he's recruited very well unless he's got some diamond in the rough dudes that he brought in that we just don't know about. Because we've had guys visit, we've had top tier talent visit, but we haven't landed anybody big in the running back room.
Yeah. Well, and not just the whole offensive coordinator stuff that didn't care about running the ball, clearly, is that he doesn't have, I mean, no disrespect to the guys that we've had or have now, there aren't any studs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but there aren't. But the thing is, what he's doing with some of these guys, when they came in, they weren't studs. I love Emmett Johnson, all that stuff. But what he's turning into is on EJ Barthel. And I got to give him credit for that. I kind of think that
Dante Dowdell got tremendously better throughout the season than he was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they found his eyeballs.
Well, and all of the running backs run fucking hard.
Yeah.
They're not pussies. They don't just swing to the outside and run out of bounds.
Plus, the way that I look at it is this.
And that's not just Dowdell. That was everybody last year.
Is there a chance that maybe his agent, knowing that he didn't have a deal done, maybe knowing that he could be getting a little bit more money than he is, said, "Hey, I need the guy at Texas to float his name. I need the guy at Penn State to float his name so that I can try and bump his contract up." Maybe that's out there. A good point that I heard on Husker Online show was, maybe Rule already intended to give him a contract, but as he supports his guys and just like he does with his players, go see what's out there. Go check your value, and let me take an offer, or let me take a swing at the offer. Once you find out what you're worth on the open market.
Well, and expand your circle. Like, go be with other people to gain more knowledge and get your, network bigger and everything. Yeah.
Maybe that's all a thing. Or maybe he actually is a stud and we have been taking him for granted.
Yep.
That's certainly possible. His contract doesn't scream to me that he was going to get stolen, because I think you're not going to match what, some of the lowest paying assistant positions on the. I mean, he was slated, if they didn't give him an extension and up his pay, he was going to make less than Jamar Mosey, who's not a full-time coach.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you something about where they were ranking him, and it makes it pretty obvious to me that they were intending to get a deal done, but who knows? He's
now equal to Rob Dvorak, who also got a big raise.
Yeah.
Who absolutely deserves it. And he's pretty much middle of the pack as far as our salaries go. So
yeah,
that's fine. I mean,
now let's go back. You brought up a good point about what he's done with Emmett Johnson, those sort of things. Not a stud in the room. I agree with that. I think a lot of people think Emmett Johnson's this every down going to be a superstar back. It's doing a lot for his image in people's minds that he's hanging out as Dylan's right-hand man right now. And maybe Dylan looked at him and said, "Let's get you in the fucking NFL. Let's make you a star." Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's what Dana Holgorsen's plan is. I don't know if he's that back, but
I mean, if it's anything, what Rule likes to say, he likes to play at least two running backs. So, but that's also how the NFL is. Nobody's in every down back. There's like one or two.
Yeah.
So
who's the last true every down back?
Where?
In the NFL.
Oh.
Probably Zeke.
Derrick Henry.
I was going to say Derrick Henry gets the ball pretty much every time he wants it.
That's why I said there's one or two guys that are every down backs.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, the vast majority of football is two or three running backs.
Yeah.
So, I get it, because that's what Nebraska used to do. Well, even then, they still had multiple backs that could be used. But, we like to reminisce about the every down back, the power guy, the guy that's going to get the ball the most and all that stuff. That's just not what football is. Yeah. And that's okay. So to say Emmett Johnson needs to be an every down back, no, he doesn't. He just needs to be effective when he's in there.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I don't care
And
if
the
he's an
offense
every
needs to
down
score
back.
some points.
Yeah.
If he can get in the end zone a few times, that was the big thing last year. Is he never got a chance to get in the end zone?
No.
much,
Because when it was short yardage situations, they put in the hammer.
which was the right thing to do.
Absolutely it was.
And everybody
I
was
hope,
male.
I hope that we have more of a plan than just Quentin Ives for a hammer. It doesn't look like there's a body in there for
I was gonna
that.
say, I don't even think Quentin Ives is the body type for a hammer. But
The way that he looked like he had bulked up a little bit for the bowl game, I could be wrong on that, but it looked to me like maybe they were going to try and use him like that because they did use him in short yardage on the goal line twice or three times in that game.
But at the same time,
They scored a touchdown.
you don't have to have just a big guy at the goal line.
You're
just
right.
call
You're
better
absolutely
plays.
right. You're absolutely right. It
That's
also has
really
a lot.
all it is.
It also has a lot to do with how you're going to expect that runner to see the field.
Yeah.
Are you just a bulldozer, which is all Dowdell was?
Yeah.
Although apparently he also had mad hops.
Well, sometimes they thought he did from the 5-yard line or whatever.
There's that. There's that.
Not that good.
There's that. Outside of that, I don't really know if there's been any other major updates. It's been small things here and there.
I think really the only other big thing would be that we had 4 guys invited to the NFL Combine.
Oh, right, yeah.
I know you guys, we've kind of touched on it, and I know you guys specifically have been higher out than I am on Nash Hutmaker as far as his NFL prospect, but are you surprised that he didn't get the invite?
I figured he would have been fringe this year. If it had been last year, I would have been surprised. Because he had a much better season last year.
Yeah.
I think that if he had gotten an invite, that would do a lot more to persuade me that there's a possibility he could get drafted. I was already on the fence of whether or not he even be a UDFA type guy, just simply because of the fact that he did regress year over year. Now, did he actually regress? I don't know. I think Ty Robinson maybe shined out a little bit more, and he cast a bit more of a shadow.
I also think that he was schemed against a lot this year.
I agree with that. He also didn't get spelled as much. Not playing Van Poppel. Van Poppel actually, not being in there, I think he played in 9 or 10 games last year, as opposed to this past season when he redshirted him. He only played in 4 games. That really hurt depth-wise for the big man-eater in the middle, and that's what he was. I mean, that's his role.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was tired by the end of games, and so he did get burned a couple times.
Not to mention, he ruined his body just a little bit with wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if he would have stayed at the weight that he was playing it last year, even though Rule talked about how it was a little heavier than what they kind of wanted, he would have been much better this year. And I think his prospect of the NFL would be much better.
It also sounded like his measurables when he went to that Senior Bowl game weren't good. He came in at like just under 6'2". He was not like, that's a small defensive tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you're going to try and move to the outside, because that's where he was body type wise, was kind of in a tweener mode. Like if you're going to be 6'2", you need to be 350 and powerful. You need to be, Vince Wilfork type in the middle there. You can't be trying to be. I don't know if he was or not. I don't think he was that tall, but regardless, he's an enormous man.
I was gonna say, but he's also like 420.
Yeah, he's
and
also
he could move.
Yeah,
like
and Nash can move, and he proved that he could move at the bigger size. It's unfortunate that they did what they did with the wrestling. I think if he had to do it all over again, would he do it? Probably not.
Maybe. I mean, it was a passion thing, so whatever.
Google doesn't know what it's talking about.
Oh God! Oh, Jesus!
It also says he was 325
he
playing
played
weight.
between 325 and 345.
Fuck no! You're telling me that he and I are the same size? Yep. Fuck off!
Yes, sir. That's what it was.
Man was massive.
But no, I personally, I don't think he had a shot at getting drafted the way he played this year. That's just me. Love the dude, but
so one of the 4 guys from Nebraska that got the invite, I was kind of surprised that Isaiah Nayer, like initially I was surprised that with how he played this year, but I think that the only reason why he did is because he was the fastest guy at the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Well, I think the only reason that he did,
speed.
if you're gonna point to one, is he's a physical specimen.
Yeah,
he's 6'4". He is built like Calvin Johnson. Mm-hmm. Like he's everything that he should be.
But Banks is
a
just
superstar.
as physical looking.
He's not near as fast.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I said I think it's about his speed.
Athleticism-wise, Banks doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is, Nair, like if you're a scout who's going to turn on that film from last year, you're going to be asking in his interviews that he's going to have to do at the combine. It's going to be why.
Where are your hands?
It's not going to be where. It's going to be why. Because we know you have them.
Yeah.
There's no way you're this physically gifted and you just can't catch the football. There was a lot of lack of effort plays out there, and they're going to want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe he can, point to, well, our offense was completely disjointed. We had no faith in our play calling for the first 3 quarters of the season. I had been lost faith in for the way that I could play, so I wasn't playing at my hardest. Being in the NFL is really what I want to do. Maybe that's the type of interview that he can pull off. I don't know how convincing he is or how good he talks, but
that would be a bad answer. But
well, I mean,
they're not asking him.
I'm just saying,
there's not a good way to answer. Why were you looking like a lazy fuck on the field?
No, I know.
Hey, why didn't you make that catch in the Iowa game to put the game away?
Yeah.
Like you literally caught one play. You can point to that specific lack of a catch as why we lost the Iowa game.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild, but I think that when you look at the draft board for tight ends, Thomas Fidone is going to luck himself into being like a 4th round draft pick.
He'll be later than that.
Maybe.
I
There's just not a lot of tight ends.
But his biggest thing is going to be is his injury history. I know he was basically healthy for the last 2 years, but having all those ACL tears and everything else over the first couple of years, that's going to be a huge factor for all these NFL teams.
Yeah.
And I just, and as far as the 4th guy, Tommy Hill, I just hope he stays healthy enough and is healthy enough for the combine to do all the drills to be able to shoot himself up to where he was projected at the beginning of the year.
And see,
obviously he's not going to be I'm not saying he's a 1st or 2nd round pick anymore.
Which is what he was projected to be last year.
I just hope that he's healthy enough for the combine to show out and show his athletic ability to ensure it even just getting drafted.
Honestly, if they put him out there and he's healthy and they just scatter a bunch of footballs on the field, he'll pick them all up really quick. Because he's that kind of a ball hog.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.